Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to take a look at our third and final individual business message development assignment. C. Excuse me. Now, this particular assignment, for I'm not sure what reasonings, gave the students the most difficulty, for lack of a better term. Um, and I think that there are some things in here that I did mention in the pre-discussion video that introduced this particular assignment that you should never do. And again, let me stress here at the very beginning of this particular assignment, and this you can use for any emails, memos, letters, persuasive, negative routine. Excuse me. You need to consider what I call CYA. Okay. Now, many of you know what CYA stands for. Okay. Basically it's cover your and your posterior. Now, you have to find a word that begins with A that means posterior, but that's what we're talking about here. It doesn't seem that you should have to worry about that in business, but I'm sorry, folks. It's really not a Alice in Wonderland environment out there. So you really need to prepare yourself. Be attentive to what's going on. Now, what do I mean by CYA? Well, yes, I mean it from a personal point of view. You need to be careful about you and your own position. Granted, I mean, it's hard to eat if you don't have a paycheck. But I think what we also have to do here and take it a step further and is to cover your posterior for the organization you work for. Okay. If they take a big hit, chances are you're going to have a big hit, even if you may or may not have done anything to deserve that hit. So you need to look at it all. And I think that's why you see a lot of organizations come up to a line and not cross it. If an organization does something that the general public considers wrong or inappropriate, you will never or rarely see an organization cross the line by saying, we apologize for our actions. No. What they will generally do is say something like, we we apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused you. All right. They're not admitting guilt, so to speak, though it's implied. It's like taking the fifth, I guess. I'm not a lawyer, but it could be. So, anyways, let's move on, and when we get to the parts, I will tell you a little bit more. All right, here's your situation again. Now, again, the dates might not be quite accurate as what you saw in the fact sheet. And again, I reuse some of my material, and sometimes I can change dates, sometimes I can't change dates. And if the recording is very good, which the first two I think were pretty good, this one I'm not too sure. I'd rather not re-record it and lose quality. But anyways, here we go with the situation. Again, you and your associate, Mr. Rhodes, interviewed a Mr. Mark Richardson last Thursday for a position with your company. Mr. Richardson presented a superb academic record and was very attentive to listening to your description of the operations of Zoomriz Technologies. Okay. You interviewed many well-qualified applicants who were interested in the advertised position of human resources assistant. Your company was particularly eager to find a minority individual who could help it fill out its affirmative action goal. While Mr. Richardson met all of the positions required, he did not match this one AA need. Instead, your company hired a female graduate from the State University of New York who had most of the qualities that you sought. You know that the job market is difficult at this time. You need to inform Mr. Richardson of your decision and express your heartfelt wishes for a good luck in finding precisely what he is looking for. All right. That middle paragraph contains plenty of do not go there stuff. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about it. So let's move on. Here's some situation considerations. Well, first of all, it's a message to Mr. Richardson, who interviewed but not get the position. Well, some thoughts here. First of all, Mr. Richardson is not a member of the company. He's not looking to try to join the company. Therefore, he's on the outside, which means he will receive a letter. Now, you're about to tell him that he did not get the job. Okay? That would therefore be negative. So we have to follow the negative layout format. So what we're creating here is a negative letter to Mr. Richardson. Now we got to remember the logical flow of the negative message, what we can and cannot include. Okay. Again, we start with something positive. We kind of give reasons in the body, and without saying no, we have to say no or say what we did do instead. But we also immediately give an alternative, some kind of what I call bone, B-O-N-E, like a dog bone. Give a dog bone. Um, Every company can do that. And it's the simplest stuff that can be done. This letter might even show you something like that. So always include that. Again, totally eliminate, if you can, and I think you can. If not, keep your negative words to a very, very minimum. All right. Let's see what we got here. Negative messages are short. Why? Because the more you say, the more you can get yourself in trouble. Negative messages are short and provide need to know information only. Okay? And it has some limited fluff. Now, limited fluff meaning some not really directly important stuff would go in the opening, because you have to start this with a positive opening. If you start it with a negative opening, like you didn't get the job, guess what? He's not going to read any further. So let's, excuse me, go ahead and take, excuse me. Again, here is the situation for us to take a look at. The green is what I feel we can reuse somehow if we so choose. The red is strike through, absolutely not. All right, so let's take a look at it. Yes, you can tell that you and Mr. Rhodes interviewed Mr. Richardson. Well, of course not. Of course you can. You can say that he presented an academic record. Okay, you can't say superb. And the reason why I would certainly not say superb is because he didn't get the job. All right, now, if he wanted to, he could question that. If my academic credentials are superb, how much more superb are the ones for the person who got the job? So be careful with that word. Tone it down a little bit. Leave yourself some wiggle room. All right. Moving on, the body interview. We interviewed many well-qualified applicants. Well, that's to be expected. You're not going to just interview one real good one and 10 lousy ones. Now, okay, so you can talk about that. However, this whole next section here has got to go. Okay, your company was particularly eager to find a minority individual who could help it fill out its affirmative action goals. Well, number one, affirmative action is law of the land. No question about that. In job postings, you can even suggest that you are looking for an applicant who can help you with your affirmative action goals. However, after the posting, you can neither discuss nor write about it in any way, shape, or form. Okay? And I think the logical reason is if someone doesn't meet that qualification, and they kind of go through the process, they don't get the job because of that qualification, they probably have a pretty reasonably successful lawsuit. Be careful there. So that's got to go. While Mr. Richardson met all of our position requirements, he did not match this one goal. Well, you're certainly not going to tell him that. All right. And if he met all your goals and you hired somebody else, you don't want to tell him that. Instead, your company hired a female graduate from the State University of New York who had most of the qualities that you sought. Three things wrong with this. You mentioned, first of all, female. Never say that. Never give gender. State University of New York, Again, never mention specifics. He doesn't need to know it was a female from State University of New York. No, they don't need to know that. You can just, it's a more qualified applicant. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know any of that other stuff. And particularly, you don't want to say most of the qualities that you sought. Well, you just got finished saying that Mr. Richardson met all of them. Now you hired somebody who had most of them. Warning. Okay, don't go there. That's got to go out. You don't have to go there. You don't have to touch that stuff. I would suggest don't even think about touching that stuff. All right. The last paragraph here, you can use it, work it in some way, some shape or another. What I think you need to do is, figure out what are you going to do for Mr. Richardson that, because you did not give him the job, okay, did not offer him the job. He's obviously a very, yeah, to bring somebody in for an interview, that means they're like in the top easily 10%, right? Out of maybe hundreds of applicants. So you really don't want to burn the bridges with these top applicants. You kind of want to keep them around because what if the person they hired doesn't work out and Mr. Richardson was number two? You came back to him later down the road and said, hey, you're still interested in that position? And if you burn the bridge, he's going to say, hell no. But if it was positive and had goodwill, he may really consider it. So you got to think about those things. How would you feel? I guess that's the big thing. How would you feel? All right, so let's move on. So this is the way I'm attacking it. Now, do you have to write exactly like this? No, this is a suggestive way for writing a response. All right, so here we go. Mr. Rhodes and I found it a pleasure to interview you last Thursday, March 3, 2022. Why did I say that? Well, because if you can be very specific instead of saying last Thursday, it is best to put in the date. There is absolutely no conflict as to when that occurred. To hear about your accomplishments. Didn't say anything about superb. It just said to hear of your accomplishments and tell you something about Zoomer's technologies and its operations. Neutral. Doesn't say anything about getting the job or not getting a job. It just set the stage. Okay, it's not positive, not negative. It's neutral. All right, it's fine. Let's look at the body. We were fortunate to have a number of well-qualified individuals, such as yourself. Like I said, if he's in there, he's well qualified. Doesn't hurt to say that. You can see it here because you said there are other people. Apply for the position of human resources assistant. The selection process was difficult. And while we hired a candidate who appears to have the qualities we sought, there we go. Not saying anything about affirmative action, not saying anything about female, not saying anything about State University of New York, doesn't say most of them. It just says we feel that we hired a candidate who appears to have the qualities we sought. We will keep, here is the bone, we will keep your resume on file in the event that a position more closely meeting your skills should become available. Now, again, there's the no without saying no. You said what you did. You hired somebody else. It wasn't no, you didn't hire him. You hired somebody else, but since you were good, you were that good, we're going to keep your resume on file, all right? Just in case down the road. That's positive. It cushions the negative. It cushions it. So always come up when you have a negative. When you're telling someone you can't do something or you did something contrary, let them know what you will do. Give them that bone. All right, moving on here. Thank you again for your interest in Zoomer's Technologies. You have our best wishes to find exactly the right position to match your background and education. Bingo. Again, there is no call for action here. Say if you don't like this answer, give me a call. If there was another job that you were going to suggest to him, you could say that Mr. or Ms. somebody or another will contact you, but don't leave the door open to continue conversation on this. All right, let's see how it looks in final form. I put together a marvelous looking letterhead. Okay, made up a bunch of stuff, works just fine. And this is how the letter would look. And as you can see here, it looks pretty, it lays out nicely on the page. It's precisely what we had picked up. I made up a name, Tom Jones. He's Director of Human Resources. That's fine. I also have down here a CC, Mr. James Rhodes, Mr. Rhodes. And the reason why I'm copying Mr. Rhodes is because I mentioned him in the letter. All right? It's a courtesy copy. Okay? Sometimes the old days called carbon copy, but we'll call this a courtesy copy. So I will certainly send a copy to him. Now, if I mentioned somebody else in the letter, in the company, I would have CC'd them also. BCC, which is a blind carbon copy, meaning only you and whoever the BCC is knows about this. And I have what I call here the Mark Richardson file. And this is basically every job, every position you have, every activity you will do, you will have a file, electronic, hard copy, I don't know. You need to keep backup of everything that is related to that. And again, that's another CYA. All right. In case somebody says, well, how come something didn't happen? Go, well, actually, it did, and you can show them. So, again, there is a Mr. Mark Richardson file with the organization, and he has placed a copy, Mr. Jones has placed a copy of this letter in that file, electronically or hard copy. Yeah. Okay. So compare yours to this. This might give you an idea of what you did well and what maybe, not so much. All right. Again, any questions? You know how to get a hold of me. Let me know. We'll talk later. Take care. Bye.